All right. Aloha and welcome. All right. Aloha, everyone, and thank you for being here. I am Janet Johnston, and I am here to help you design and create a life that works best for you and a business, and help you create something that will get you excited to wake up every day. And today I have a special guest. She is so cool. Her name is Allison Dillard, and she has a neat story for us. And you'll find out why I think she's cool. All right, so welcome, Allison. Aloha.
Hi, how's it going?
Thank you for being here. And
thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, welcome to this virtual Hawaii visit. I
love it.
Because you're in California, right?
Yep, in California. Wishing I was in Hawaii for sure.
Oh yeah, me too. I wish you were here. That would be so much fun if we could do an actual live interview with in-person interview. That would be fun. Okay, so before we get started, for you to share your wonderful story with everyone, I'm going to read your bio. And
sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. So Allison Dillard is the author of Crush Math Now and Raise Your Math Grade, 2 books that help students figure out how to succeed in math. Adjunct Math Professor at Irvine Valley College with over 20 years of tutoring and teaching experience. She is a mom of 3 who recently launched a new membership for parents to help parents figure out how to make math, school, and online learning less stressful. Okay, I have to say, I needed you like 25 years ago when my kids were little. Oh my gosh, that is such an impressive bio, because math is really stressful for me, and I could not figure out how to help my kids with math. So even though you weren't around 25 years ago to help me, I want you to share your wonderful story with us. I want you to take us on your journey and go back as far as you need to, like even from when you were in elementary school to where you are now, because the juice is in the journey of where you've been. Like, I'm so impressed. Any math person, I'm impressed. I do not like math, so hopefully you can teach me how to like it.
It's okay. I think that's always like the second thing everybody says to me is like, oh my God, I hate math. So you are totally not alone. Don't worry.
Sorry for saying that. It's,
No, it's good. Oh, it's funny. So you want to start at the very beginning.
Yeah, like
going back to elementary school. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Did you like math when you were a kid?
I think I did. So I think if we trace back that far, I think everything, about me loving math now definitely started with my parents. I do remember, I think it was like in 2nd grade, it's going to sound sort of silly, but I forget what it was. It was like a lizard or something sort of sciencey that I found that I really loved. And I showed my 2nd grade teacher, and she told me, oh, you should have been a boy. And my parents were just, furious at that, because they really wanted me to like science and math. And I think they really always encouraged that so much. So I think, from even a really young age, they always were sort of pushing for me to love math and appreciate it and see its value and all of those sorts of things.
Did you thank your parents for that?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Because they're probably like, we had no idea she would go on to like be a math professor and write math books. She kind of went a little too far with it, but I don't know. I always enjoyed math. I think I always liked the challenge of it throughout school. And I think, where so many students, they see math problems and they go like, oh, I just can't do it. And I hate it. I don't even want to try. I think I always enjoyed the challenge. I always enjoyed looking at things that I didn't know how to do and figuring out how to do it. And math is kind of a puzzle in that sense, as you're going through the different grades. I'm trying to think. And then in college, I majored in math, but I also majored in English. So I'm trying to think. So I studied these two very different things. On the math side, I really enjoyed statistics and applied math. And then on the English side, I really enjoyed film. And my senior thesis for English was actually representations of women in mainstream romantic comedies. So totally different from that.
It sounds like you have like this really balanced way of using your brain, like opposite things, right? English, math, and your thesis. It's just like sounds really balanced. Wow.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I just really enjoyed those two classes, or I don't know, skills, I guess you'd say. And they definitely complement each other, though, I think, because with math, you have the ability to solve these different problems, whatever they are, but it's not really a lot of use if you don't have the ability to explain it to others,
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, the sort of writing and the communication side of things, I think it's definitely helped me as a teacher, and then also as a writer, of course, I probably wouldn't have thought to even write the math books had I not had the English background.
Yeah, because I was just going to ask you before you started explaining if like math is like has a specific foundation but you explained it perfect, how, it helped you figure out things. And yeah. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm trying to think. Oh, so next, I guess on the journey, which is probably more of a detour than on the journey to being like a math professor. After college, I actually decided to. I was planning to be an actuary and take a job as an actuary, which is somebody who does sort of data analysis for insurance companies. So instead of doing that, I decided I wanted to go and try to be a screenwriter and a bartender. So I got a job as a bartender, and I started taking screenwriting classes over through UCLA's like extension programs, and I did that for a few years, and that was really fun and interesting. And it was one of those things where, I felt like maybe it was the like irresponsible thing to do, but at the same time, I was like, I'm 22, like this is the time to do it. Now instead of when I'm at the age I am now, I'd probably be doing that now instead. So I kind of got it out of the way.
So did math make you feel like you needed to be a responsible person?
Maybe it did.
Or
I think it was leading towards the responsible job, right? I think all the responsible jobs are the math and tech jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. But I think the math helped that too, in the sense that, math was hard, especially once I got to college. And I never, I didn't declare my math major until it was maybe the end of my junior year or the beginning of my senior year, until the very end, because I didn't actually know if I would be able to major in math, because whatever class I was in, the next level of math, it just seemed so hard and intimidating. I didn't know for sure that I'd be able to do it. So it was always this sort of mountain that I was climbing that I was never sure I'd be able to actually get to the end where I was majoring in math. I think screenwriting was the same thing. It was very hard. It was a new skill. Everything I think about film and screenwriting and stuff seemed difficult and impossible, and just sort of learning how to keep at it, I guess, was maybe what I'd learned from.
That's how it is with any new skill. It's always going to be hard and intimidating, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I think, so I don't know, in a weird way, I think math helped me. It also helped because it paid my bills, because I tutored through that whole period. I tutored math. And so tutoring math was very helpful actually for the screenwriting. Yeah. And then I'm trying to, what was that?
Oh, nice. Smart that you use your math skills to tutor, to help bring in some income, to help you to live. Yeah. Smart.
Yeah. Exactly. So financially, it made a lot of sense. And then it was something that I didn't really appreciate until maybe a little bit later on. But I really, really enjoyed the tutoring math, because, you get to work with students one-on-one. And usually, when you meet with them, they hate math, and they have anxiety over it. They have no confidence in it. And it was this really empowering job where I got to work with someone to overcome all of those things. And by the end, they'd be like, yes, I can totally do this thing that I didn't think I could do before. And it's like they just became this new empowered person. And, it really honestly is one of the most rewarding jobs, sometimes even more than teaching, because you get to work with them like one-on-one to really dig into what are all the underlying reasons why you're afraid of math and stuff.
Wow. That sounds like you had a fun journey in college where, you had that skill that you could use to help you live and bring in income instead of like a dead end job where you go and you hate it every day,
Yes.
So that's cool. And so, go ahead, continue.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so if any of you guys have kids who like math, encourage them to be math tutors because it's a great side income. And honestly, it's such a rewarding job. And, they never have to worry about paying the bills. It's a good way to start in college,
Oh, that's neat. Okay, so whatever happens after you finish college, like what did you end up doing and share with us from that point?
Absolutely. So I guess it was later, like late 20s, I sort of started to change my focus a little bit away from the screenwriting. At that point, I'd met my husband, who wasn't my husband yet, but I'd met him and we were talking about getting married and started thinking more about the future and wanting more stability than, I think my life had at that particular moment. So I decided to go back to school and get my master's in math with the intent of being a math professor at a community college. So I went back and did that. I didn't actually anticipate. I ended up getting pregnant shortly after we got married. And so I was actually pregnant through my first year of my master's, and
oh boy,
I had like terrible morning sickness. I would literally I would go to class and then I'd have to leave and I'd go and throw up from the morning sickness and then come back and finish class. It was terrible. But it's one of those things where, you do the tough things and it's something that it's hard in the moment, but you look back at it and you can be proud of it. And, it's nice because now my kids get to, know that mom was a math professor, right? Instead of just a math tutor, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think I liked the idea of that, being sort of the role model for the girls, at least.
Oh, absolutely. And there's nothing better than having your kids be so proud of what you do and to share it with their friends instead of being ashamed of what, you do. So that's cool. I love that. So are you actually helping your kids now to be, understand math? And because sometimes when we have a skill that is so strong for us as parents, it doesn't always translate well to the child because like I have 4 adult kids, so I know because they didn't want help from mama with anything. They thought they could just do it on their own or mom doesn't know anything. So what is it like with you and your kids with math?
It's been interesting. It's really different because all of my experience is more with tutoring and teaching high school and college level students. Whereas elementary school is a whole different ballgame. And so I feel like it's a whole new skill set that I've actually developed because yes, there were times early on where, my daughter would be, trying to learn like addition or multiplication. And I was like, well, let's just break this down to variables so you can understand the theory behind it. And I was like, oh, that did not go over well at all. Did you look at you? So it's been fun actually learning how to teach them math. And a lot of that, I think, at the elementary school age just has to do with making it fun and having a positive attitude about it. Mm-hmm. So much more so than, maybe like how it is that you're explaining. I don't think it really matters if it's Common Core math or the way that we learned math. It's just the, sitting down and doing it and making it not miserable for them that makes the biggest difference.
Oh, that's great that you've had that types of experiences where you have, teaching college kids, high school and college, and then now teaching your young children. Like that's a great skill to have because like you said, it is different how you teach them. So it just, I think, is more fuel for you.
Yes. And I think one of the things that one of the things I should mention, I think, about teaching the younger kids is the perspective, as a community college math professor, I've worked with a lot of students who place into the lower levels of math in college, so they don't go straight into college level math. They end up in sort of these remedial classes because their skills are not strong enough in math to do the college algebra or the calculus, whatever the classes that they need for their major. And so I think that's something that sort of impacts how, I don't want to say like maybe the importance of math for my kids, because I see like if you don't have those strong foundations from elementary school, they'll still make them in college. It's very possible for kids to get to college and still be making addition errors and multiplication errors and stuff. And it's just, we've got to nip that stuff in the bud right in elementary school, because it makes everything easier for so long, for so many years, all of high school, all of college, if we can get those foundations really strong.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I've witnessed it, and I'm like that myself. Like, okay, why do we need algebra? Can't we just have math? Plus and minus, isn't that good enough? But or multiplication. So that's interesting that you're saying all these things, because what do you find? Like, you tutored from when you were in college, so tell us a success story that you've witnessed from someone who just like was ready to cry or did cry about math, to like how you explained earlier, like, hey, I can do this. Is there any specific story that you can share?
Absolutely. So there's one story that I actually wrote about in one of my books, but because it's one that I like to share with my students, because I think it helps to put things in perspective for them. So I had a student that I tutored, and this was years ago now, but she was in college and she was taking pre-calculus, and she needed it. It was her like last requirement to transfer to get into a nursing program, and she couldn't pass it, and she had failed it twice. So it's 2 semesters of failing. It's a whole year of failing pre-calculus. And then she'd taken it a third time and she withdrew the third time. So it was actually a year and a half that she spent struggling trying to get through pre-calculus, and she just couldn't do it. And she had severe math anxiety, and rightfully so, right? Because she essentially failed it 3 times. And so there was obviously a good chance that she was going to fail it again if she just kept doing the same thing that she was doing and approaching it in the same way. And so she probably had the most severe math anxiety of any student I'd met, in my years of tutoring. And in all honesty, she ended up passing pre-calculus with a B+ once we'd sort of worked through all of that. And so it's a story that I share with students because I feel like most students aren't in that bad of a situation, right? And I feel like if she could figure out how to do that, anybody can, and it wasn't easy. We went through a lot of different things. We really tackled her math anxiety sort of head on. We talked about sort of like where it came from, and we looked at her study skills, how she was studying for tests, which in all honesty, she was just like, she was reviewing her notes and her books. And it's just, there's a huge jump, right, between homework and exams. Like when you're doing your homework, you have your notes, and you have your parents, and you have Google, and you have you have all of these crutches to help you with it, right? And then if you're just sort of reviewing that stuff, it's stuff that you've already seen and done, and it's way easier to just look at something and say, oh yes, that makes sense, I'll do that on the test. That's very easy to do. Whereas if you're staring at that problem on a blank page with no crutches and trying to figure out how to do it yourself, that's a whole other ballgame, right? And so anyways, I got her studying in a different way. So she was actually taking practice tests, and I would just give her, I'd look at the problems from her homework, and I just give her practice tests and say, do this. And then she'd panic and she'd have her anxiety attacks, but she'd have them on the practice tests, Right. And so we'd be able to eventually sort of work through that, and studying differently along with a bunch of different other things, we were finally able to figure out something that worked with her. But I think the thing that's helpful for students is, one, just knowing that somebody who's failed multiple times, who has severe math, like panic attack, math anxiety over tests, is able to overcome that, and if they can do that, whatever your situation is, whatever the obstacles are, like it's figure outable, right? There's some way to success in math, and I think the key is just to keep changing what you're doing and keep changing it up until you find, something that's working.
And I want to ask you about that because it seemed like you just knew what she needed. Like, so do you think that's something that is just innate in you? Like it's easy
Mm.
and it just like you didn't have to think about it. Like you could already see what the missing puzzle piece was for her? Or do you think it's because you love math since you were a kid and because you've had such a long journey that you were able to have all those experiences? Like what do you think was it that you could pinpoint
Mm.
what she needed? Like
That's a
that's not easy, not just for math, but in any situation or topic. It's not always easy to pinpoint what's missing or what's needed. So what do
Mhm.
you think?
That's a really good question, I think, actually, because I've been helping students in math for so long that a lot of times for me, a lot of the changes that they need to make seem very obvious, and I'm very confident in saying this is you should go and try this out because I've seen it work so many times. And but I can see that if you're not a math professor, if you hadn't tutored and taught for like 20 years, you don't necessarily know what all of those different changes are. So I mean, I guess to answer your question, I think you're right. Maybe a lot of it comes from experience of just having tutored so many students over the years. Because I think I probably started tutoring back in high school, maybe when I was like 15 or 16.
Wow.
So it's been a really long time. It's a lot of students over the years, And
Mhm.
I think if you do anything for that long, you definitely just through trial and error, you learn a lot about what works and what doesn't. But then you also sort of develop that maybe that confidence to know that obviously nothing works for everybody, and so it's just a matter of, trying and moving on. And I think it's called the 80-20 rule, right? If you try lots of different things, right, 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of the things that you try. So you
Mhm.
just try lots and lots of different things, make lots of different changes, and always keeping an eye out for what's the one that's going to make the difference. So yeah, maybe that combination of just experience, but also faith in experimenting with change.
I love that. That is so smart. Like to go about looking at it that way. And it's like you're not afraid of trying things, even if you're not sure if it's going to work out or succeed. So you're not afraid of failure, it seems like.
Right. And I mean, especially with math, you figure that the big thing that you don't want to do is fail the math test, right? There's huge fear around failing that, right?
Yes.
Um, so the more that you can just practice in your studying and study in different ways and honestly get those failures out of the way with practice tests before the actual exam, I feel like it's almost always a win. You can never go wrong by just trying to study different ways. Yeah.
Wow. It seems like everybody needs a math teacher like you. Like we need you to help us build that foundation. Like you what you have just said for the last 20 minutes seems like you are basically teaching us how to build a foundation, because it seems like even though it's math, like you have all the foundation like solid, like like ready to go, and then you build on top of that. So it seems like you're just really good at it, but you've been doing it since you were a kid. So I think there's more to math than I realize. I always joke about how like in algebra you should never mix alphabets with numbers. That
I
just
know you
makes
were saying that earlier. I know.
that just makes me crazy. Like, okay, I can't understand math as it is, and then you want to add in alphabets? Oh my goodness, what are you trying to do, right? But but I recognize that if we had a wonderful math teacher like you to help build a strong, solid foundation, then it may not have been so stressful and have as many moments of tears and anxiety over math. Wow.
And actually, so if I can add in, so one of the things that's sort of different with me in my life right now, is that I had some health problems. A couple of years back, I'd gone through sort of like surgery and chemotherapy, and then I've also got some respiratory problems. So I'm actually taking a break this fall from teaching as soon as everything had hit with coronavirus and everybody was moved back home, I definitely felt like, I'm sort of in that category of people who should not be teaching in person and needs to sort of quarantine. So I've been sort of switching gears this last month, say, to sort of do something new. I've been trying to think about, how is it that how I can help people, and do something different besides teaching in this upcoming fall. And so one of the things that I've been working to create, and we've talked about this a little bit, is where I'm working on a membership for parents, where I can basically just sort of help parents to help make, math sort of less stressful and less time consuming, and help them figure out, what are all these different little changes that their kids need in order to succeed. And hopefully that's something that can help parents in this upcoming school year, especially with more and more schools deciding that they're going to start the fall online. I know a little more of the math teaching then falls into the parents' responsibility with this. And I know that can be stressful, especially for the parents who, who don't like math themselves.
Yeah, I'm just glad my kids are all grown now. I don't have to deal with that. But like I said, I wish I had you 25 years ago in my world. So talk to us about that, because there are, I'm sure, a lot of moms who have to homeschool and they might need your help. So tell us about your membership that they can check out too, because, we all need help.
Sure. Yeah. So, the first idea that I sort of came up with, and I sort of did sort of like a beta launch of this. It started a couple of weeks ago. So I'll launch it sort of officially in August. But I created this membership, and right now it's tentatively called Raise a Math Person. But the name is sort of in flux. We'll see what we actually decide for the name of it. But really the crux of it is just helping parents with the math, and so part of it is sort of like these weekly video lessons, because sort of like what I was saying before is a lot of success in math is just sort of mindset and experimentation, right? Trying different things. And so part of the membership is just sort of me sending a different strategy for parents to use every week. So it's super short. I'm trying to keep the videos at like 2 minutes, because I know parents are so short on time. So it's just a little something every week. It's just another little like tool that they can, add to their tool belt each week. And then the other part of it is just sort of a question and answer option, where parents just have the ability to send me questions every week. And in all honesty, a lot of the questions that I've been getting have just been a lot of questions about stress and juggling the kids with work. Like, how are we supposed to teach the math while we're working from home? What homeschool options should we do? Like, how can we do homeschool math in a way that's easy? But just the ability to send me those questions, because and then get answers, and then also learn from other parents' questions, because a lot of times there's questions that we don't think to ask, but that can be very helpful to us. So it's sort of those two different things. One is just sort of a little sort of streamlined success path that you get a little bit every single week, just so I can give you some of those really big, helpful strategies that I've seen help a lot of students and parents. And then also just to give you an outlet, someone to ask questions to for those times where you feel stuck and need some, kind of personal advice.
I love that your videos are just a couple of minutes or so, because I've witnessed online videos for teach math. They're like 30 minutes long, and it's like you fall asleep by then, because
honestly,
it's already
a huge challenge trying to make it short. Yeah, it's so much easier to make a 10-minute video than a 2-3 minute video. But one of the things I know that parents are they have no time. I know as a parent, I've got a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And I feel like I have no time at all. So the idea of watching long videos about how to make math easier just would sound more stressful. So really, I'm trying to make it as absolutely streamlined as possible. Yeah,
that sounds good. Like I need that. I mean, I don't have kids that I have to teach math, but I think because I dislike math so much, I'm going to have to watch your videos. I'm going to have to join your membership and be in there, so that, because I do have grandchildren, so that, I can actually learn math and not be stressed, then maybe I can
Right.
share with my
Right.
grandchildren as well. Yeah, and
Cool.
maybe it'll help in my own life too, right? The math.
Well, because there are probably so many people who feel exactly the same way you do. So let me share a little bit of advice for parents who hate math, who just hate
Okay.
math and are probably dreading that more than anything, right? Going into the upcoming school year. So the first piece of advice that I always offer for parents is, one is just to take math off of like the pedestal. There's so many parents and students who just think that math is just, it's like this, it's almost like magic. They think it's like magic. Like some people can do it and the rest of us just can't, but it's not like that at all. Math is just a skill, right? So it's just like learning how to write or learning how to dance or learning how to play soccer. It's just a skill. And so just sort of remember that, and so whenever your kids are complaining about like, oh, I can't do math, instead of just sort of sympathizing with them and saying, oh, it's okay, I can't do math either, it just sucks. Like, that's not going to help them get through their homework or improve or make anything less stressful, right? Instead, just remind them, math is just a skill. You've got to do your homework in order to get better at it, in order to improve. So just, get back at it. So you don't have to lie to them and say, oh, I love math and it's wonderful, if you don't believe that, right? But just maybe just stop some of the negative things, right? Stop saying, oh, you're bad at math, I'm bad at math, math sucks. Just, if you just sort of eliminate the negative stuff and then just remind them math is just a skill, right? And you can maybe relate it to what's a skill that they've already developed. Maybe they've been doing piano for years or soccer for years. What's a skill that they've already developed? And then just sort of parallel their journey with that. You remember a time when you practiced soccer and it just sucked, but you really needed to, practice kicking with your left foot because you weren't going to get better at it until you practiced, whatever the skill is that they can relate to, you can just sort of parallel math with that. And I think that can help a lot, when they just sort of remember or are reminded that it's just a skill.
That's smart about paralleling that. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And words have power, so we have to be careful what comes out of our mouth, right?
Yes.
We're programming ourselves to hate it even more if we say we hate it, right? And then programming our kids to hate it too, and we keep saying that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to say that to myself, like, okay, Allison said math is just a skill.
Allison said, yep.
I'm going to believe it because you are a math genius.
No, it's, I think with me learning math also, when I look back at like the math that I was doing in my master's, I did a lot of research. I did like research for Boeing and Los Alamos National Lab and National Science Foundation and stuff. And when I look back at that stuff now, because it's been years, I'm like, ooh, that looked really complicated. I don't even know if I could do that now, Oh, shoot. Hang on, that's my phone on my computer. That was weird. Okay, it's off. Sorry. Anyways, I'm just going to say it's a skill that builds itself. And it's very easy to forget, especially as parents, right? We might have known math back in high school, but if we're not, like you'd said, using variables with stuff throughout adulthood, we just haven't used it for a long time, and I get that too. I feel the same way about some of the math that I've done in the past. We forget it if we're not using it, but that doesn't mean that it can't be learned, so yeah, it's weird. Like you don't have to know the math in order to help your kids with math, right? You just have to be able to encourage them, and remind them that they can do it. If that makes sense.
Well, in your membership, do you actually plan on having videos for children to watch too, or are these videos just for the parents to watch?
Well, right in the membership right now, it's just for parents. I am working, so the next book that I'm working on is a statistics book. And so when I launch that, I'll actually launch some statistics courses along with that, and those will be for students. So I've sort of just gotten started with all of this really in the last month. So right now, the things that I have are for parents. I have the membership. I have a workshop, which really walks parents through how to help their kids strengthen their math foundations. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, at the college level, you see these students who are still struggling because they never learned those foundations from elementary school. So if you feel like your kid's moving behind, I can literally walk you through how, like, the shortcut to identify, like, what are the specific things that they need instead of just doing general extra math worksheets. It's just, anyways, there's a shortcut way to do it. So one of those things is walking parents through that. And then I created 2 additional courses, which mostly came from needs that for people in the membership. And one is called Crush Mom Burnout, because moms are running at like 1,000 miles per hour right now. And I know that, learning how to recharge a little bit before we go into the next school year is going to be really, really helpful, I think, when it comes to being able to lead our kids and our family through this chaos in the upcoming school year. And then the last course, or last workshop, I should say, that I'm putting together is called Homeschool Math Made Easy-ish. And so there I'm just sort of walking through what I'm doing for my homeschool setup for the kids in terms of what I'm doing for math and how to sort of make it easy-ish, because of course it's not going to be easy if they're all home learning while you're trying to work. There's no way around that. But I know there were a lot of parents who were sort of looking for advice, but not from the perspective of homeschoolers who just love homeschooling and think that everybody should want to do that, but from somebody who's just like, let's do this, let's make it easy, let's make it not stressful, and let's get the kids to be learning independently as fast as possible. So that's what that workshop is.
I love that play on word too. Easy-ish. I like that.
Easy-ish, I know. Easy just felt like a lie because there's no way to make it fully easy.
Yeah.
It's a situation that we don't all want to be in, this homeschooling from learning from home,
I love the fact that you are so proactive and you're just taking action quickly, because you've seen a need and you just are going for it and taking action and creating this membership and these courses that is needed.
Thanks.
I think I'm gonna have my grandchildren's parents get join your membership too.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's not easy teaching your own child. It's really not. And so thank you so much for making it easy-ish, to learn how to teach kids, our own kids anyway. Yeah. So this is wonderful. Now, is there anything else before you share all of how people can get in touch with you, all that information? Sure. Is there anything else that you feel you would want to share that moms would need to know besides all the wonderful things you've just shared?
For moms and parents, I guess I would just say, take care of yourselves. It's a really stressful time right now, especially going into this next school year. So, just, honestly, I think, self-care is probably the number one most important thing. So if you need sleep, get sleep. If you need just some time off to read, do whatever it is, just make sure you're taking care of yourself, because, even when it comes to stuff like math, it's always stuff like that we don't want to do, but have to do is easier when we're in the right mindset, so, taking care of yourself is going to help your kids a lot going into this next school year. So don't forget to do that. I know moms get run down, so just take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice, because when moms are tired, they get grouchy and they don't talk nicely to people at home.
And I'll say, I love math, but when I am exhausted and burned out, I don't like having my kids do math. I don't like overseeing, and I don't, and so, so much of that just has to do with just being exhausted and burnt out. And so, that goes a long way towards helping with math,
That is so cool. Well, you know what? Tell everyone how to get in touch with you, or where you'd like them to go, and how they can find out more about you.
Sure, absolutely. So I have a website called AllisonLovesMath.com. So you can find me there. And if it's not up yet, it will be soon. All of the information on the workshops and whatnot. You can join my email list from there, and I do have sort of discounts and updates and stuff. I also have a Facebook page, which is the Allison Loves Math Facebook page, and I do lots of Facebook Lives on there, mostly talking with different experts to help parents make math easier for them and make school easier for them. We actually just did a whole bunch really on parent self-care and dealing with stress, because I sort of feel like that's sort of overshadowing the the math stuff right now. I know we'll need that in like a month when we get back to school, but honestly, taking care of ourselves right now is really important. So you can find me at my website and on my Facebook page. That's usually where I'm hanging out.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, because it sounds like you're doing something so important and so needed,
Thank you. I'm trying to help. I know it's a crazy situation right now.
Yeah, but I was so interested in having you come on here for me to interview you, because I think that what you have is so different than what I've seen out there, as far as, women having businesses. And like I've never seen anyone so far who is doing something like this, where it's almost like nobody wants to talk about math because it's so
Nobody does. No.
Yeah, and that's why I've never seen it until I met you, and then I was like, she needs to come on here, because you make
thank you so much.
Like, there's a way of not hating math. You make it seem so easy, and and this is how you do it. And thank you so much for sharing, because I have anxiety about math, and I'm sure there's somebody else out there who does too.
There's so many. Yes. If you're a parent with anxiety about math, you are so not alone. It's like math gets a really bad rap. Everybody feels that way. I think it seems like, yeah.
And it gets a bad rap, but we need math. We can't live without math.
We need math. We do. It is the foundation for everything, with problem solving, with everything to do with finance and building wealth and stability and security. Just, it's everywhere. We can't avoid it. So yeah.
Okay, from now on, I won't avoid it. I promise. Oh my gosh.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on. This was wonderful.
Absolutely. You are just a breath of fresh air, is what I have to say. Like, you make it seem so light and easy, and I love that. I love your energy. You just have such a kind spirit about you. So thank you so much for being here too and taking the time. All right. You take care. I'll see you later. Aloha.
Aloha.